Warning you that what you say could be heard. All right, good morning, friends. If you would make your way to your seats. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for those who are joining us watching on YouTube, and for those who are here who are acting like it's any other Shabbat. Lots of socializing, lots of talking, so that's what you're hearing on the camera. That's kind of how it's supposed to be. The socializing is, of course, very masked and distant, so people are sort of even louder than they would be under normal times. But we don't mind. I think it's great. We've got some people here in our beautiful Temple Beth Abraham Sanctuary. I'm up here today because of the sort of way the spacing is working. Chaplain Palchik will be leading us in Shachrit, also reading Torah from the main table. There'll be Torah reading from a table to my side. There will be Aliyot from near the door, which I'll explain again when we get there. There's Haftarah reading from that table. So I know it's a bit confusing, but as we continue to adapt and everything will continue to change, I want to thank Avi Paulson, who is here working the sound and stream mostly. Right, we are going to begin. How beautiful and pleasant it is to be in the sanctuary. How good. Matovu, page 68. Matovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu. 73, please rise. Also want to remind people, singing is still technically forbidden at worship services in the state of California. You can sing quietly under your mask, as long as you're not trying to fully on project where the aerosols really gather, or with your mask off. So, we shouldn't, but if you're hearing it, on YouTube, you're saying these people are singing, this camera is very sensitive, the microphone on it is very sensitive, so even a quiet sound you will hear from some people. For those who are here, also, let me remind you once again, anything you say, it's possible it could be heard. You all have what we call the hot mic, the naked gun mic, so just be aware of that. All right, page 73. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, אשר נתן לספים להבחין בין יום ובין לילה. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, שעשני בצלם. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, שעשני ישראל. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, שעשני בן דברים. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, פוקח עברים. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, מלביש ארמים. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, מתיר אסורים. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, זוקף כפופים. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, מקר ארץ על המים. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, שעשה לכל צורכי. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, אנשים צדיק גבר. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, אשר ישוב בגבורה. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, אשר ישוב בתפארה. ברוך אתה אלוהינו בחלום, אשר נותן יפתו. נבציר. ולנו היום בחיות לכן חסר רחמים, ואינך ואינך קוראים, תגמר חסדים טובים. ברוך אתה אלוהינו. אומר חסדים טובים לבוא ישראל. Page 80. אחרי מה טוב חלקנו מלאים קרלנו, מה יפה רשתנו, אשר שאנחנו משכמים מרימים, ערב חומים פעמיים בכל יום, שבלה ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. קדש את שמך מקדשי שמך, וקדש את שמך בעולמך, ושבתך תרביע קרננו, ברוך אתה אדוני, וקדש את שמך ברבים. Commenting on the Torah portion of Parshat Bechukotai about the curses and the laws that we're supposed to follow, curses that happen after blessings before. Leviticus Rabbah says, commentators understood this as the laws that I myself follow. The verb translated follow literally means walk, go, prompting the comment that humans walk in God's ways, but angels stand in the presence of God. Human beings, unlike angels, have the ability to grow and change after doing something wrong, and therefore Jewish law is known as halakha, following, walking in the way to go. Page 84. ירצון לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתיתן כלכנו בתורתך, ונבנה מתלמיד אבשלום הכהן, ואבשלום ואבשלום, ותחברות מקומם לתורה. We rise for Kaddish Rabbanan, having read a text in the presence of a meeting. Yikadal Yikadash Shemei Rabbah, Yalmad Yivrach Yeruteh, Yamlich Malchuteh, V'chayrichon V'yomechon, V'chayrichon Beit Yisrael, Bagalam Yizman Kariv Yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Korach, Ve'olam Lomei Omaya, Yiparach V'yishtabach, V'yipar, V'yipramam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitaleh, V'yitaval Shmei V'yikudsha V'yirihu. La'ela min kol berachata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechmata, v'amiran v'yomah v'yimru. Amen. Al Yisrael v'Rabbanan v'al Talmidei, v'al kol Talmidei Talmidehon, v'al kol mandas kim v'raita, divadra, aden v'di, v'chol atar v'atar. Yehela honu chon shlama rabba, china v'chista v'rachamim, v'chayin arichim, zonar v'chai, ufor konam, min konam, v'choni v'shmaya v'yimru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Tovim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. Oseh Shalom V'yimrama, V'barachama V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. May be seated, page 87. It's Moshe Le'om HaShabbat, V'le'odot Adonai, V'lomer L'Shimcha Elyon. Tzadikatamar Yifra Perez Balvanon Yizgeshetunim Beveit Adonai Bechato Eloheinu Yafrimu O Yenuvun Vesema V'shenim V'rahananim Yihu Lehanim Yashar Adonai Tzuri V'lo Avlatavo. Page 95 is Roshir Hanukkah Tabayit Le'David. And Eve refrained from weeping, for joy comes in the morning. Mourners and those observing Yortzeit, Mourners Kaddish, page 97. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabah, ve'alma divrach yerutei ve'alif malchuteh, ve'chayechom yomechom v'chayechom beit Yisrael, v'galav v'zman kari v'yibru amen, ve'heshmei rabah v'derach ve'olam v'amei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudsha v'rirhu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'yama v'yibru amen. Yesh lama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'yibru amen. Say shalom v'yibramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'yibru amen. We rise, page 99. Baruch Shema v'yaolam, Baruch Hosei v'reshit, Baruch Gozer v'kayim, Baruch Merachem al ha'aretz, Baruch Merachem al ha'briyot, Baruch ad kal netzach, v'kariyim al-rufur shalom. Yachik elamim, v'chushupak v'yadei shmo gadol, Baruch Adonai, v'napolav v'tishbacho. You may be seated, 134. Alleluia, 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 bekodsho. Alleluia, alleluia, berkiakuzo. Alleluia, alleluia, bikurotav. Alleluia, alleluia, keroguno. Alleluia, alleluia, betega shofar. Alleluia, alleluia, beneve bechinor. Alleluia, Hallelujah, Betov, Umachol. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Bemini Betuga. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Betzilzale Shama. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Betzilzale Teruah. Kolan Shama Tehaleya. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Kolan Shama Tehaleya. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. 143. Shmat Kochai Tavechet Shimcha. Shemayim va'aretz na'lecha u'shbecha chazrecha v'nechem shem kodshecha ka'amur l'David barchi nafshi Adonai v'chok ravai et shem kodsho ha'yel b'tatzumot uzecha ha'gadol b'yivot shemecha ha'gibor l'netzach v'nora v'noratecha ha'melech ha'yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa. This time we call upon Jack and Paul, who will be leading us in Shachri, page 149. If you're watching at home, the service will be longer than it's been in a long time. It'll be, I would guess, 2 hours, possibly slightly longer even. We're going to repeat the Amidah today. It's a very long Torah reading because of the Torah. Short sermon, but anyway, page 149.
Shochenan marom v'kadosh shemo Achatu ranim v'tzadikim ba'adonai Lai sharim nava tehila V'fi yesharim titala V'divrei tzadikim titbarach U'vilshon chasidim titromam Uv'kerach kedoshim titkadash Uv'makalot revavot Amacha beit Yisrael Rina Yeparshim Chamalkinu B'chol Dor V'ador Shakim Hobai Kol Hatzarim Lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avotinu Lechadola Le'Shabeach Le'Fa'er Le'Romein Le'Hader Le'Barech Le'Alel Kales Al Kol Divrei Shira B'Tishbachot David Ben Yeshai Abdecha Meshichecha Yishtabach Shimcha Le'Anakim Brachot ve'hodot me'ata v'yad olam Baruch atah Adonai el melech gadol v'tishbachot El ha'hodot Adonai niflat Habacher v'shirei zimra Melech elkei ha'olamin Yitgadal ve'yitgadash Shalei Rabbah Ve'amad v'achirotei ve'amlich machrotei B'chayechon u'yomechon U'chayei lecho beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'bizman kariv V'yimaru amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'almei Almaya Yitbarach ve'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar v'yitrumah v'yinosei V'yithadar ve'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Kudusha B'rechu Le'la Mikol Berchata V'shirata Tishbechata V'nechemata Ta'amira Me'alma V'yimaru Amen. Please rise for our Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Can you see that? Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or u'varei choshech Ozei shalom u'varei et hakol yoducha v'hakol yishabechucha Ein ke'erkecha ve'ein zulatecha Efes filtecha u'midon elach Ein ke'erkecha ve'ein zulatecha Efes filtecha u'midon elach Ein ke'erkecha Adonai Eloheinu le'olam hazeh Ve'ein zulatecha Malkeinu l'chayecha olam haba Efes filtecha godlinu limot HaMoshiach Ve'ein tomeh lecha Mosheinu v'tiyat hametim El Adon al kol ha'ma'asim Baruch u'mborach b'fi kol neshama Todov v'tuvo malei olam Da'at u'vuna sobevimoto Hamitgael al chayot ha'kodesh V'nedar v'chavod al ha'merkava Zechut u'mishor Lifnei chisot Chesed v'rachamim lifnei chevodo Tovim me'orot Shebara Eloheinu yitzaram V'da'at v'bina u'chaskel Koach u'gvura natan bahem Liot moshlim b'kerech tevel Maleim ziv u'fikim noga Na'eziv b'chol ha'olam Tzamechim b'tzeitam v'sasim b'voam Osim b'ema ritzon konam Pa'er v'chavod notnim lishmot ha'chola Marina lezecher malchuto Kara Lashemesh Vayizrach or Ra'at v'hitkin sorbat halbana. Shevach notnim lo kol tzeva marom tiferet ugedula seraph ve'ofanim v'chayot hakodesh la'el asher Shabbat mikol ha'ma'asim. Page 159. Titvarach Sorenu Malkinu B'Goaleinu Borei Kedoshim Yishtabach Shimcha Le'ad Malkeinu V'chulam Potchim Apiam V'Yushav Tohora V'Shira V'Zimra V'Barchim V'Shavachim V'Varim V'Maritzim V'Makdishim V'Malachim Et Shem Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah Kadosh hu v'chulam mekablim aleinu malachut shemayim ze mizeh v'nertzim rashut ze lazeh lahakdish liyotra menachat ruach v'safa v'rura v'nima kedusha kulam kechadanim be'yamim be'yarva Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzebaot melech kol ha'aretz kevodo v'ha'ofanim v'chayot ha'kodesh bara'ash gadol minasim limat serafim limatam meshavchim ve'yamrim Baruch kevod Adonai min komo la'el baruch mimoditenu. 162. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, lenizkechu lanu mahera le'oro, mahera le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Ahava rabba ahavtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla gedola v'tera, Chamalta aleinu. Avinu malkeinu, ba'avur avoteinu, Shabbat chuvecha, Shabbat chuvecha, Avinu malkeinu. Vatlam dechu kechayim, Kein techonenu utzamdenu, Avinu ha'av ha'rachaman, Amrachem rachem aleinu. V'tein b'libenu lehavinu chaskil lishmoa, lilmod ulelamed, lishmor ve'lasot. Ulkayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha be'ahava v'ha'erenenu v'toratecha v'davikenu v'mitzvotecha v'yached levavenu me'ahava u'yirat et shemecha v'lo Ve'havienu le'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz ve'tolichenu kol miniyut le'artseinu ki apo el yeshuotata uvanu b'harta mikol ha'belashon ve'keraftanu Lashimcha hagadol selah be'emet ve'hodot lecha u'yachedcha mi'ahava Baruch atah Adonai הבוחר בימו ישראל באהבה. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, bechol levacha, ubechol nafshecha, ubechol meudecha, ve'ayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושינתן לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובליתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אמת ויציב ונכון וקיים. הדור בדור קיים ושמו קיים, וכיסא נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו ליד קיימת, ודבריו חיים וקיימים. אמת שיתהו אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, גואלנו ואל אבותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, פודנו מצילנו, מעולם שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך, עזרת אבותינו, אתה הוא מעולם. Top of 172. אמת אתה הוא ראשון ואתה הוא אחרון, ומבלעדיך אלוהינו מלך ומושיע. תהילות לעליון ברוך הוא מבורך, משה ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, שירה חדש לשיקחו גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Please rise. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובטחנו יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Private Amidah, page 175 to 192. keep the Amidah back on page 175.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agi tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot Umevi Goel Libnei B'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magin Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham U'Fokei Tzara Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim et Himatorav Lehoshia Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed Mechayim Eitim B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofech Olim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishanei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Umidom Melach Melech Menit Umachayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman Atah L'Hachayot Meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaMeitim.
Please rise for the Kedusha.
Nekadesh et Shemcha ba'olam Keshem shemati shimo tov b'shmei maram Kakatuv al yad neviyecha V'kara ze al ze ve'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzevaot Meloch ol haaretz Kevodo Az bekol ra'ash gadol Adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol Minaseim liumat serafim Liumatam baruch yomeru Baruch kevod Adonai Minko mechamalkeinu Tofia v'timoch aleinu Ki mechakim anachnu lach Matai timloch betzion V'karov b'yameinu le'olam va'ed tishkon Titkadal v'titkadash B'toch Yerushalayim yircha Ledor v'ador U'lenetzach netzachim Ve'eneinu tirana malchutecha Kadavar Hamur B'shirei uzecha Al yadei David Mashiach tzidkecha Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohayich Zion Ledor vador Hallelujah Ledor vador nagid godlecha U'lenetzach netzachim kedushavtecha nadish V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh atah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated.
Yismach, Yismach, Yismach Moshe b'matna, b'matna, b'matna chalko Ki evan ne'eman, ne'eman Ay karata lo Kilo tifer b'rosh anatato B'yamdei lefanecha al har Sinai U'shnei luchot avanim horim b'yado V'chatu b'hem shemirat Shabbat V'hen katu b'toratecha V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam b'rit olam Ve'ni u'vein b'nei Yisrael ati le'olam Ki sheishet yamim asad Adonai et ha-shemayim ve'et ha'aretz Ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash.
183.
Lo natatu Adonai Eloheinu legoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo hinchalto malkeinu le'yodei chesed v'gam b'mnuchato lo yishkenu oralim, ki Yisrael amcha natato be'ahava, azer Yaakov asher bam b'charta. Mekadeshe shevi Shabbat, kulam yisbechu b'tu Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, chendat yaminoto, karata zecher l'maseh b'reshit. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu retzeh v'mnuchatenu, kachenu b'mitzvotecha, v'tein chalkenu b'toratecha, sabenu mituvecha, v'samchenu b'shuatecha, v'taher libenu, v'ovdecha v'emet, v'hanchilenu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'ahava uvratzon Shabbat kodshecha, v'anuhu v'Yisrael, v'kadshesh shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, v'kadesh ha'Shabbat. Retzei Adonai Eloheinu v'amcha Yisrael v'tefilatam, v'hashem v'tavodah l'pir beitecha, v'yishay Yisrael tefilatam v'yavatika v'alvratzon u'tiyu l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. V'teizenenu b'shuva l'tzion brachamim, Baruch atah Adonai, amachazir shechinato l'tzion, ma'adi hanav. Atov kilo chalo rachamecha, v'ham racham kilo tamuchastecha, ve'elam kibinu lach. Ve'al kulam yibrach v'yaramam shimcha malkinu tamid le'olam va'ed, v'chol ha'chayim yoducha sela, v'halilu et shemcha v'emet, ha'el yeshotinu v'ezrotinu sela. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha olchane lehodot. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, Barcheinu b'bracha hamshuleshet b'Torah haktuva al yadei Moshe abdecha ha'amura mipi Aaron ubanav ha'amura mipi Aaron ubanav ha'amura mipi Aaron ubanav kohanim am kodshecha ka'amur. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Sim shalom, sim shalom tova uvracha ve'olam. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Chen b'chesed b'rachamim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael amecha. Barcheinu avinu kulanu ke'echad ve'or panecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha ve'olam. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Ki ba'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Torat chaim ve'ahavat chesed u'tzedaka uvracha v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom. V'tov b'necha levarach eloha Yisrael b'chol eitu v'chol sha'a b'shalmecha. Baruch atah Adonai, amavarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
193.
Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei Rava, ve'almad uvracher v'yom nechmachute, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayedav beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman karivim maru. Yehi shmei Rava mevorach, le'olam me'amaya yitbarach yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit ramam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit alo shemei dekudasha b'rehu la'elam mikol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran ve'alma v'imaru titkabal tzotahonu ba'utahon devo Yisrael kodama v'honu v'ishmaya v'imaru yehi shalom rava min shemaya v'chayin olenu v'yakol Yisrael v'imaru Osei shalom b'mramav v'ya'asei shalom V'yakol Yisrael, v'yakol Yoshvei Tevel, v'yimaru. Amen. Baruch Tieh, and happy Mother's Day.
All right, beautiful davening there, Jacob. Greatly appreciated. And I'm going to lead the Torah service, but you really shouldn't get comfortable because you're going to go up and grab the Torah and open the ark and do all of it at once. Eventually, we will get to ark openers and Hakba and Galila and all that stuff, but not quite yet. Page 195. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai Oz Le'Elohim Te'em, Adonai Yivarech Et Amo V'Shalom, Avarachami, Eitiva V'Erzoncha, Et Zion Tivnecho, Yerushalayim, Tivnecho, Yerushalayim, Kivecha Levar V'Tavru, Melech El Rabbin Yisrael Olamim. We rise as the ark is open. Vayibin Aaron Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai Ve'anuzu Orenecha, Ve'anuzu Mizanecha Mivanecha, Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah, Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah, U'devar Adonai Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Emo Yisrael, B'Kedushato. Ve'anarachet ve'lishne kadisha yakira ana emar tushbechan ye'era v'kodamach v'tiftachni ve'oraita v'tazim mishalim ve'libi ve'liba lechol amanach Yisrael v'tavu l'chayim ve'lishma. Amen. Now take the Torah out, close the ark. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Adul Adonai Iti. Ramam Hashem Oyachka, right the table there. Adonai Hagedula, Hagevura, Hatiferet, Ve'anetzach, Ve'ahod, Kihol Vashamayim Va'aretz, Kihol Vashamayim Va'aretz, Adonai HaMamlacha, Ve'aminaseh Lechol Erosh Romevu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'adam Raglav Kadoshu, Romevu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ar Kodsho, Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. And we may be seated. Two Torah readers at two different Torah reading stations today. Aliyot. If you have an Aliyah, and we have to turn those on, you're going to go to one of the two music stands over there by the open door, lots of air, and whichever one was used last, you use the other one. And again, everybody here is vaccinated, and you're going to keep your masks on because you're not behind a plastic screen. But I just don't want to. I want to be overcautious as always. So that's how that will work. I'm going to we're in a double parsha, Bahar Bechukotai, the end of the book of Leviticus or Vayikra, and we'll do a little bit of each. I'm going to read the statements put together by our Kita Vav, that's 6th grade religious school Beit Sefer class, because this would ordinarily be Vav Shabbat, where they'd be leading things for the first time as a group, and the parents would be sponsoring the Kiddush and all that good stuff. The kids would be reading their own little pieces, so I'm going to read what they wrote before we actually begin the Torah reading. Our parsha begins with a description of the sabbatical year, a Shabbat for the land. The Torah says that for 6 years you can prune your vineyards and sow your fields, but in the 7th year the land has a complete rest. Then, after 7 cycles of 7 sabbatical years, the 50th year, the Yovel, the Jubilee year, all land that had been sold in those 50 years goes back to the original ownership when it had been divided equally among the tribes. We explored how this parsha speaks to us today. We thought it very relevant. After all, we've actually lived a kind of sabbatical year ourselves this past year. As tough as it's been, it also had some good things. Just like the farmers need a break from working and the land itself needs a break so it can be more fertile, people need a break sometimes. We've learned some important lessons from having to take a break this past year. For example, to appreciate the little things in life, like a roof over our heads, our families, having a comfortable bed, and having the resources to talk to our friends virtually. As we start to come out of the pandemic, we feel gratitude for things we used to take for granted, like going to a grocery store, or being able to see our friends live. In the future, we learned it might be good to take a break sometimes, though probably not for a whole year. We looked at an article by Lori Lefkowitz about this parsha, where she asked what regulations we might need today to make sure we get enough rest. We realized it can be tough for working class people who need to work very hard to make enough money to take time off and rest. We think increasing the minimum wage so that everybody who works has enough would be one regulation that could help. We like that the Jubilee year resets the amount everyone has to equality. We think the Torah is teaching us equality is the goal. We know having perfect equality might not be possible, though. We think the government should make sure everyone has enough resources, but not that everyone has equal amounts, because then people won't be encouraged to do things. So they weren't cautioned to stay away from political and economic issues, but they seemed to manage to know that they were supposed to cover both sides a little bit. So Eitz Chaim says in a commentary, so they had Keynes and Friedman both in their drash, although I don't think that's how they put it. Eitz Chaim says in a commentary that the Torah makes this rule so that everybody has self-respect. We agree with this idea that it's not just about wealth, it's about self-respect. We think these Torah's lessons about equality and self-respect should also apply to other things like racial and sexual identity equality. May we all appreciate the blessings in our lives and enjoy our new freedoms as we come out of this pandemic. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Ki Tava. We appreciate your hard work. Thank you, Rabbi Carol, their Beit Sefer, their Jewish culture, Jewish studies teacher, and Michael Liederman, their Hebrew teacher. So thank you to them for their help. Yasher Koach. All right, so we're going to be on 2529, page 742, in Eitz Chaim. This first part, verses 29 through 34, walled cities you only have a year to redeem, and the Jubilees don't quite apply to them. Okay. Let me make the call here officially. amusim, vayizkor brit Eitanim, vayatzil nafshotenu min hasha'ot hara'ot, vigar, v'yitzach hara min hanasuim, vayachon otanu, v'flekat olamim, v'lev nishalotenu, v'midah tova yeshua rachamim, v'yazor v'yagin, v'yashua l'kol ha'chosim bo, v'nomar amen. Hakol v'yvod Eloheinu, u'nocha v'lakot Torah, kohen karam. Tell me it. Yehuda Zalman ben Shlomo HaKohen B'Finka Hanarut Bat Sarah. There's more to it, I know, so hang on a second, but I lost the place. And I'm using not the card. 1 second, sorry about that. Baruch Shatan Torah L'Adonai Yisrael B'Kedushato V'atem Hadvekim B'Adonai Elohechem Chaim Kolchem Hayom. All right, all y'all over here.
Baruch Adonai Barak.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher b'chavanu mikol ha'amim v'natananu et Torah. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'hiyamuch achicha imach v'nikra lach lo ta'avod bo avodat aved kesechir ketoshav yeh imach ad shanat hayovel ya'avod imach ויצא מאימך ובניו עמו ושבה משפחתו ואל אחוזת אבותיו ישוב כי עבדיהם אשר הוצאתי אותם מארץ מצרים לא ימכרו מקרת עבד לא תרדבו בפרך ויראת מאלוהיך.
I think you started 30. 30, verse 39.
Okay, sorry, so we'll start verse 39, not at verse
20.
All right, blessing after.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natav b'tolteinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. All right, so we may be off on the verses. So
Are we? I don't know.
So we started because I have something different here. It's okay. So what did you just do? 25, 39,
39 through 43.
Okay, so you did 39 through 43. So that would have been about the indentured servitude. So now we're doing 44 to 46 is my guess. Where
No, I don't have it in front of me.
will be 44 to 46, chapter 25. The non-Israelite slaves. Oh, you know what? I have two different possibilities here. So, okay.
Choose
So
your
some
adventure.
years I see we've done one, some years the other, so we should be good to go. Anyway, yeah, so now we're talking about non-Israelite slaves, and it's complicated and not real pleasant. I'm not going to dwell on it. Not because we can't, but I got other things to talk about today. So, Leviticus 25, verse 44. That is page 744. And for the second Aliyah, I believe it is Marty Stone from New York side. Let's see, I might even have his name on here. Ya'avod Moshe ben Nachman ben Esther Sheni.
Amen. בעבדיך ואמתך אשר ילך מאת הגויים אשר סביבותיך מהם תקנו עבד ואמה וגם מבני התושבים הגרים עמכם מהם תקנו וממשפחתם asher imachem, asher holidu ba'artechem, v'hayu lachem le'achuzah, v'hitnachaltem otam, v'nechem acharechem l'reshet achuzah le'olam, v'hem ta'avodu, uv'achechem b'nei Yisrael ish ba'achiv, lo tirdevo b'farech.
Amen. Yashikoah. And there are microphones over there. Their pickup is pretty good, but you have to be a little closer. And so if you're willing to use it, lean in a little closer. The third aliyah we're talking about now, verses 47 through 54. The rite of redemption continues. John Jacobs will now be reading the next passages of Torah. And let's see. So yeah, the rite of redemption. For the third aliyah today, we call upon Rabbi Art Gould and Carol Robinson. And Carol is going to be saying Birkat Gomel afterward, which I'll explain there. So Yohamdu, Harav Avraham Yitzchak Ben Yosef, Karina Anna Batlev. Is that not right?
Hada.
Oh, there we go.
Karina Gola.
Yeah, that's not what we have here, but it's Karina.
Well,
Karina, but that's wrong. Karina Gola, but Lev Hada. Shlishi.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'titasi yad ger v'toshav imach umach achicha imo v'nimkar leger toshav imach oleker mishpachat ger acharei nimkar geula tihiyah lo echad me'echav yigalenu od dodo oben dodo oben dodo yigalenu o misher b'saro mi mishpachto yigalenu o asiga yado v'nigal v'chishav im konehu mishnan hamachnu lo ad shnat hayovel v'haya kesef nimkaro b'mispar shanim kimei safir yiyah imo Imod rabot bashanim lefihen yashiv gulato mikesef miknato ve'imad nishar bashanim ad shnat hayovel v'chishav lo kefi shanav yashiv et gulato kischir shana bashana yihiyah imo lo yirdenu beferech le'enecha ve'im lo yiga'al dat V'im lo yiga'al ba'elev yatzah b'shnat hayovel uvanav imo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. I'm going to turn in our Siddur for a moment to page 204 for Birkat Gomel, the prayer for being delivered from danger. Carol had been ill for a long time, and we are thrilled to have you here. Yeah, ironic, I was just reading the list, but we've only been saying the Hebrew name for like 2 years. But now we're so delighted to have you be able to say the prayer being delivered from danger on 204.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel l'chayavim tovot shegamlani kol tov.
Amen. Misha Yalech Kol Tov, Yigalech Kol Tov, Selah. Blessed is what have granted goodness to you, and may God grant goodness to you continually. Amen. All right. For the fourth Aliyah, we are on verses 25:55 through 26:2. Serve only God, not humans. Keep Shabbat in the sanctuary and refrain from idolatry, as we call Sandy Margolin for the next Aliyah. Ya'amod Shlomo Hirsch ben Dukumba Shlima Revi'i
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMvorach. Baruch Adonai HaMvorach Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher B'charbanu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ki b'nei Yisrael avadim avadayim asher hotzeti otam eretz Mitzrayim ani Adonai Elohechem lo ta'asu lachem elilim ufes elo matzeva lo takimu lachem ve'even mashkin lo titnu ba'artzchem lihishtachavodot aleha ki ani Adonai Elohechem et Shabbatai tishmeru mikdashi tira'u ani Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
We now head to Parshat Bachukotai on page 747. What happens if you follow the laws? Good things, essentially, to you and the land and the crops. So we call upon Joseph and Sheila Millman for the fifth Aliyah. Don't have the Hebrew names on my chart. So Ya'amdu, Yosef Yaakov ben Benjamin, Sarbat Hillel Vachana, Hamishi,
Amen. Im bechukotai telechu v'et mitzvotai tishmeru v'asitem otam v'nati kishmechem v'itam v'natna ha'aretz yivulach v'etz hasadeh yiten piryo v'hisig lachem dayish et batzir u'batzir yasig et zera v'yachaltem lachmechem l'shova v'yeshavtem levetach be'artzchem.
Sixth Aliyah, on page 748, verses 6 through 9. One more little Aliyah about some blessings. Then we get one big giant one about the curses. I got it. Ya'amod Shlomo ben Moshe v'gita shlishi.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMvorach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'charbanu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. V'natati shalom la'aretz u'shchavtem v'yein machrid v'hishbati chaya ra'a min ha'aretz v'cherev l'ta'avor ba'artzchem u'gadavtem et oivechem v'naflu lifnechem l'charev v'gadfu mikem chamisha mea u'mea mikem rivava yirdofu v'naflu oivechem lifnechem l'charev ufaniti alechem v'hifreti etchem v'hirveti etchem v'akimoti et briti etchem.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nota B'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. All right, we now have 10 through 46 on page 748. All the curses that are going to happen should we not observe the laws, sevenfold punishment, skies like iron and earth like copper, which actually doesn't sound that bad, but it means it in a bad way. Beasts and all kinds of bad things. Now, this one is going to be said quietly and in an undertone quickly by John because it's scary and we don't want to dwell in it. It's supposed to be one of the most righteous people in the congregation gets this aliyah who can handle it. So, Hilda, you're going to just have to handle it. But it's amazing to have you here as well. I know how emotional you were just walking in today, especially at the beginning, living in a communal living situation. Things were especially restrictive at the beginning, and you've been on every online service and Torah study, so it's great to have you have this aliyah. Sort of following the footsteps of Jack Coulter, who I would usually give this aliyah to if it wasn't a bar bat mitzvah. So anyway, great to have you, and your Hebrew name is?
Yehudi bat Yisrael b'chaya.
Ta'amod Yehudit bat Yeshua b'chaya shvi.
Baruch et Adonai habarach.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'cha banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. V'yachatem yashan, 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 mibnei chadash totziu, v'natati mishkani betofechem, v'lo tida'al nafshi etchem, v'hiralachti betofechem, v'yiti lachem le'elohim, v'yatem tihiu li la'am. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, mihiyot lahem apadim, Va'ashpor motot alechem ve'alechem from the miyut. V'im lo tishmeru, li v'lo ta'asu et kol ha'mitzvot ha'eleh. V'im b'chukotai tima'asu, v'im et mishpatai tiga'al nafshechem levilti asod et kol mitzvotai lahafrechem et briti afani esezod lachem. V'ivkati alechem behala et ashachefet yerek atachem mechalor einayim v'medivot nafesh v'zaratem lariv zachem yachlu oivechem ונתתי פניי בכם וניגעתם לפני אויביכם ירדו בכם שוריכם ונשתם ינקודם אתכם ואם הרגע לא תשמעו לי בספתי לא יסחה אתכם שבע על חטאותיכם ושברתי את העול איתכם ונתתי את שניכם כברזל בארצכם כנחושה ותמלאי כוחכם ולא תיתן ארצכם את יבולה ואת הארץ לא ייתן פריו ואם תלכו עמי קרי ולא תבואו לשמוע לי ושמתי עליכם מכה שבע חטאותיכם וישלחתי בכם את היד השדה ושכבה אתכם והכריתה עיניהם והמעיטה אתכם ונשמו דרככם ואם באלה לא תבשרו לי והלכתם עמי קרי והלכתי אף אני עמכם בקרי והכיתי אתכם גם אני שבע על חטאותיכם והבאתי עליכם חרב הבאתי עליכם חרב נוקמת ותעברים ונאספתם על עריכם ושלחתי דבר בתוככם וניתתם ביד אויב ושיברו לכם מטה לכם ויעפו 10 נשים לחמכם ותקורך וישיבו לחמכם במשקל ויאכלתם ולא תשבעו ואם ולא תשבע ואכלתם ולא תשבעו ואם בזאת לא תשבעו לי והלכתם עמי וקרי והלכתי עמכם בחמת קרי ויסרתי אתכם אף אני שבע על חטאותיכם ואכלתם בשר בניכם ובשר תאכלו והשמעתי את אמותיכם והכרתי את חמניכם והשמעתי את אמותיכם והכרתי את חמניכם ונתתי את דבריכם על דברי גילוליכם וגאולה נפשי אתכם ונתתי את עריכם חרבה והשימותי את מקדשיכם ולא אריח בריח מכוחכם והשימותי אני את הארץ ושמענו עליה אויביכם היושבים בה בירכם עזרה בגויים, עריכותי אחריכם, חרב בית ארצכם, שממה בעריכם יהיו חרבה. אז תרצה הארץ את שבתותיה, כל ימי השנה וירתם הארץ אויביכם. אז תשבות הארץ והרצת את שבתותיה. כל ימי השנה תשבות את אשר לא שבתה ושבתותיכם בשבתכם עליה, ונשארים בכם. ותמורך בלבבם מארצות אויביהם, ורדף אותם. כל עלה נידף ונעשו בנוסח חרב ונפלו ואין חודף וחשבו איש ביחיד כמפני חרב ורדף עין ולא תהיה לכם תקומה לפני עליכם לפני אויביכם ועבדתם בגויים ויאפה אתכם ארץ אויביכם ונשארים בכם ימכו בעוונם בארצות אויביכם בעוונות אבותם איתם ימכו ויתוודו את עוונם ואת עוון אבותם במעלם אשר מעלו בי ואף אשר הלכו עמי בקרב אף אני אלך עמם בקרב והבאתי אותם בארץ אויביהם או עד שכונה לבפם האחר ואז ירצו את עוונם וזכרתי את בריתי יעקב ואף את בריתי יצחק ואף את בריתי אברהם אזכור והארץ אזכור והארץ אזכור מהם ותירץ את שבתותיה והשמע מהם והם ירצו את עוונם יענו ים ומשפטם עשו ויש חוקותי בכל נפשם ואף גם זאת בהיותם בארץ אויביהם לא מאסתי ולא גאלתי בכלותם להפר בריתי איתם כי אני אדוני אלוהיהם וזכרתי להם ברית ראשונה אשר הוצאתי אותם מארץ מצרים לעיני הגויים להיות להם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלה החוקים והמשפטים והתורות אשר נתן אדוני בינו ובין בני ישראל בהר סיני ביד משה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי אלוהים נתן בצלחנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yashakoah. John, beautifully done. We rise for the Chatzi Kaddish. Ikra al Ikra Shemei Rabba. Man Rafir Tegam Lechmachutei V'chayechon Yomechon Chayechon Beit Yisrael Ba'adava U'bizman Karim Meru Amen Yeishei Rabba Mevorah Le'olam Olamei Olamaya Yivarah Shabbat, V'karim Minaseh, V'tadar, V'taleh, V'talal, Shmei Kudsha, Le'la Mikol B'chata V'shirata, Kush B'chata V'nefmata, Yamiran V'yama, Nimeru, Amen. May be seated. We turn to the ending of the Parsha and the book of Leviticus on page 756, the Maftir, verses 32 through 34, chapter 27. And we are talking about tithes, that they all belong to God. And for the Maftir Aliyah, and to recite the Haftar, we call upon Susan Simon. Talmud, Sarabat Yisrael, Beryl, Bechenya, Hamaftir. And remember, there's a chazak, v'ni chazek when he finishes.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. B'chol masar bakar v'tzon kol asher ya'avor tachat hashevet ha'esiri yakodesh la'Adonai. Lo yivaker ben tov larav v'lo yimirenu v'im hamer yimirenu v'hayahu tmurato yihye kodesh lo yigal ela hamitzvot asher tzivah Adonai et Moshe Israel Behar Sinai. Chazak, chazak, v'nichazek.
Yasher Koach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
All right, I'm going to recite the Misha Berach now. First, reading a list of names of those who are ill in our community. We're thinking especially today of Scott Lawrence, Dalia Bat Rezel, Hazan Shlomo Natan Ben Nechama. That's, of course, Canon Richard Kaplan, who is in Germany on a special trial of an experimental treatment that our normal streamer, Josh Mailman, actually set him up with. And so he's there. That's relatively good news, as he was into this very unique and special trial. You see the Sarah Bat Mariam Khana, Barbara Rose, Lou Burrow, Ilya Oak, Arlene Miller, Pastor Karen Stepko, Karina Gola Bat Adav Yehuda Tzvi. Leave you on for just a little while longer, we think? Okay. Leah Yehudit Bat Shena, Shabtai Dov Ben Shimon Moshe, Francis Block, Shraga Andel Ben Ruth, Manuel Ben Sara, Esther Malka Bat Sala, Ray Ramshaw, Valerie Levy, Missy Rosen, Albert Alter, Rosie German, Leah Bat Shimon Lazar, Bob Raskers, Justin Hardy, Leah Bat Shimon, oh wait, that's on there twice, I gotta keep it up. Yechiel Ben Aliza, Julia Victoria Lopez Maldonado. If you have any other names that you wish to add to our prayers for the sick, please say them out loud at this time. Yisheberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak V'Yakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Uyivarech V'Rapeh Tachonim Elna Rifana Elna Rifana Lahem Elna Rifana Elna Rifana Yisheberach Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, Yirapeh, et HaCholim. I'm adding a little bit to this prayer for the sick this morning. Refa'eni Adonai ve'rapeh, Hoshienu ve'ivashea, ki tahilati ata. That is an additional prayer for healing that is actually in the weekday Amidah every day, set to the music of Debbie Friedman on her special healing album. The reason I added that today is because Susan's about to read it. It is in this week's Haftarah. It is the ending passage of the Haftarah for Bukotai, Jeremiah. So we're going to turn to page 763. That blessing for healing, which made its way into our daily Amidah, you will hear today. The connection with the Torah portion is, of course, blessings and curses. So we're going to turn all the way over there to Susan. You're going to press a hold and you see it light up. Yeah, you got it. All right. 763.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'minim tovim, v'ratzav v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nbiei ha'emet b'tzedek.
state of Israel, Avinu Shabbat Shemayim, Tzor Yisrael V'Goaleh, our off that is in heaven, rock of Israel and its Redeemer, bless the state of Israel, the first flowering of our redemption. Shield her with the wings of your loving kindness, spread over her the shelter of your peace. Send your light and your truth to her heads of state, her ministers and her advisors. Restore them with good counsel before you. Strengthen the hands of those who defend your holy land. Bequeath to them our God's salvation. Adorn them with a crown of triumph. Grant peace in the land and eternal joy to its inhabitants. And let us say, Amen. Susan, since you're already over there, you want to lead us in Ashrei?
I'm dying to lead us in Ashrei.
I figured you were dying to. All right, so it's on page 231. We will respond, although sort of quietly.
You respond loud.
I'll respond loud, I guess. Sound behind the walls.
Ashrei Ashrei Beitecha, Od Ya'alu Chasecha. Tehillah LeDavid, Aramimcha Elohai HaMelech, Avarcha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed. Gadol Adonai B'Olam Ehud, V'li Gdulato Yifeker. Adar Kavadodecha, V'divrei Nivottecha Tzicha. Zecher Rotucha Yavihu, V'tzidkatecha Yiranenu. Tov Adonai L'Kol, Rachamav Kol Masav. Kivod Malchutecha Yomeru, V'ratecha Yidaberu. Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, U'mimshaltecha B'chol Dor V'dor. Einei Cholelecha Yisaberu, V'yatanotem Lahem V'noflam B'ito. Tzadik Adonai B'chol Derachav, V'chatzit B'chol Masav. Ritzon Yerem Yaseh, V'yevshamatem Nishma V'yashir. Tehillah Adonai Yidaber Bihi, Yivarech Kol Basar Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed. Olam Yivarech Yah, Yitzhak Olam, Hallelujah.
We rise from the return of one of the sacred drawers to the ark, so that one, we return that one. Ya'alu et Shem Adonai, ki nizkav shemo levado, olam haaretz v'shamayim, v'yarem keren le'amo, tehillah lechol chasinav, l'bnei Yisrael amkeron. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Skip that one, actually. Lachem Torati al ta'azavu L'tzayim Lemach hazulikiva V'tomcheha Merushar Yirafeha Narhei Na'am V'chol Netivoteha Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem Amen. All right, we may be seated. Kitavav wrote today, and I read, as we start to come out of the pandemic, we feel gratitude for things we used to take for granted, like going to a grocery store or being able to see our friends live. So I go running every morning, with the sometimes exception of Thursdays, because I have to get here too early, and especially now that we're live and in person for me and can't fit it all in and get here in time. But I've been running pretty much every day for the past 2 years. Before that, it was maybe a couple times a week. Now it's every day. And whenever I come in from the run, I say to myself, and sometimes out loud, I hate it. And when I walk in, if Karen happens to be there, she says, "You hate it." And that's true. But, you know, of course, as I'm getting older, I have various ailments occasionally. I also lift weights every morning, and so maybe my knee will be achy, or my wrist, or my elbow, or something. And then maybe I'd have to, although my leg's actually been okay, and that's why I've run every single day for the last 2 years, but I've occasionally had some wrist issues. But when I have these things, I always say to myself, you know, when it's better, I'm going to express nothing but gratitude that I'm able to lift these weights, or that I'm able to run up that hill. I'm going to be so grateful when it gets better. And then it gets better, and by the second day already, I hate it. That's the new normal. Anybody else do something similar? Right? Just that's the way human nature is, at least for me. So the past couple of weeks, we've also been fortunate to open up our Beit Sefer for live in-person outdoor learning, just a couple of classes at a time. I had confirmation class live and in person this past week, the final confirmation class. And we were actually talking about fairly serious topics, death and the afterlife, but the class just couldn't stop giggling and laughing the entire time. Not because of the topic, although granted, you know, when you're talking about physical resurrection, people rolling through underground passages to get to Jerusalem, it is a little bit odd and funny, but mostly they were just giddy to be there in the presence of one another. And a couple of them expressed the idea, gosh, I wish we could have been here every week to do this. And one of them, it was actually Lindsay, said, but then it wouldn't have been as special as tonight, expressing that same idea. So you turn to the Haftorah today, and Jeremiah, talks about healing. Heal me, God, and I shall be healed. Ki tehilati ata, for my praise is you, God, my praise is you. And it becomes a part of our everyday liturgy. Every day the prayer, that same prayer for healing, is in our Amidah, except Shabbat, because we don't ask for so much on Shabbat, we just express gratitude. But he's asking, praying for healing. And that line kind of, on the Amidah part of it, basically becomes, since it's the daily prayer, it's the prayer, the request for healing. But the line in the Haftorah, Ki tehilati ata, for you, my praise is you, God, that's expressing gratitude when things are even normal. So we have that combination of pray when we need something for healing, but also making sure we express thanks when things are normal, which I certainly, and many others, are not as apt to do. We forget so quickly. So, is Kitov Av right? Will the pandemic teach us to be more gracious, to express more gratitude, to be more thankful each and every day for all the things that we took for granted? And realistically, the answer is probably only for a few weeks, maybe even only a few days. When we get back to normal, we will probably forget that even that first precious cup of coffee, or the ability to gather together with friends, or in a building as beautiful as this one, that will be the new normal. We'll forget that that's what we're supposed to be thankful every day. But hopefully, every time we see that prayer for healing in the Amidah, we'll be reminded of where it came from, which is, of course, Jeremiah, but also from Hashem, from God. And then we remember that final line, Ki tehilati ata, for you, O God, are our praise. You are our praise. We shall praise you continually, all the time, in good times and in bad. Shabbat Shalom. All right, we're going to continue now with the Musaf. I will lead this one. Put up my mask, but don't need to do that. That will be somebody else's leading. So we're going to rise, page 239, the Amidah, or the Hatzi Kaddish, followed by the Amidah out loud and together. יתקרא ויקרא שמי רבי, למען יברח חירותי והמלך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם כולו לעמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לעמים כל ברכתה ושירתה ושפחתה ונחמתה ואמירת בעלמא ואמרו אמן. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופיה כי תהילתך ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו אלוהי אברהם ואלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה ואלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה האלוה הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני בחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע מחלקם חיים בחסד בחיי מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומרתיר אסורים קיים אמונתו לשני עפר מלחמות הבעל גבורות ומדומה לה מלך מימין ומחיה ומצליח ישועה למען אתה חיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח צרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה אמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות בכל הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא עולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה היה מקום כבודו ומתן ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו הוא יפן ברחמים ויחונם יחדים שמו ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים שמה ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד הוא אלוהינו אבינו הוא מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישפיענו ברחמיו שני בעיני כל חי שני בעיני כל חי להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם ודברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהים ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש שפחה עלינו כפים עלינו ושלום בעת קבל הקרוב הקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Continue on our own 247 through 258. shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom. Shalom b'brama. Hu yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom in Brahma. Oh, yaseh shalom. That Oh, say shalom actually predates the one you think of as the traditional one. Oh, say shalom in Brahma, written by Nurit Hirsch for the 1968. I think it was I don't know if it was Israeli festival or it was actually Eurovision. But either way, that's the one you know. You think it's the oldest one. The one I just did is a Hasidic one, much older, even if newer to you. Kari Shalem, page 259. Yitgadal v'yikra shemei rabba. Yomad yivrach tevam lechmachu teva chayachon. Yomachem chayachol beit Yisrael. Agalav izman kari v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach. Leolam li'amei almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'paran minaseh. David Levit Losh made Kucha, the loving Kuber Kata Shirata, Kata Benechamata, Tamirami Imeru, Amen. Take about Sultan Voton the Tosha, Kanama for Holy Vishmai Imeru, Amen. Eshlam Rabin Shemaev, Chimel and Koisrael Imeru, Amen. O say Shalom Bimamav, Uya say Shalom, Alinavel Koisrael, Koish Vekivel, Imeru, Amen. Ein Eloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Kadoneinu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, Dodel Eloheinu, Dodel Adoneinu, Dodel Malkeinu, Dodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru, Avoteinu, Lefanecha et Ketoreh Asani. Please rise to Elenu, page 263. Alena the Shabeach Ladon, Hakol, Lateinu Ladon Sem Reshi. Shelo asanu k'goyim haratzon, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama. Shelo sam chelkeinu b'hem, ve'orleinu k'chol ha'amonam. V'anachnu kodim, u'mishtachavim u'bodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch. She'enot hashamayim ve'yosef haaretz, u'moshe yekaro b'shamayim mima'al. Ushkinat uzo, vegot emiromim. Eloheinu, Eino, Emet Malkeinu, Efesulato, Kakatu, Betorato, Vidanta Ayom, Ve'ashevota, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai, Hua Elohim, Hashamayim Mima'al, Ve'aretz Mitachat Eino. Kakatubah Techadonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed V'ne'emar V'chaya Adonai V'melech Ad Kol Haaretz V'yom Ahu V'yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad. You may be seated. We lovingly recall the memory of our departed relatives and friends whose yortzites we observed during the coming week. 3 names on here of special significance I mentioned last night. I had the honor and blessing of knowing all of them and of burying them. 3 incredibly impactful people on this congregation, all in very different ways. And that is Jack Jager, Holocaust survivor, and sitting right where Jerry is right now, always. First one here when I arrive on a Saturday morning. Sam Berkovich, friendliest human being in the world, and ultimate Raiders fan and baseball guy as well. And Shirley Dorfman would have been the first female president of Temple Beth Abraham, but had to take care of her husband who became ill. Amazing human being, president of Women of TBA, and a whole bunch of other things too. Just a volunteer extraordinaire. So remembering all three of them today, as well as Andre Ballant, Leslie Joseph Belikoff, Morris Elthanon Belikoff, Robert Berger, Alfred Brisky, Sophie Cousin, Dora Davidson, Huguette Dayan, Betty DeLuggage, Leonard Glasser, Sidney Greenstein, Alex Harris, Reiki Contola, Miko Contola, Ann Kaplan, Jack Lehman, Esther Morris, George Morris, Charles Nagar, Renee Nathan, Melvin Rifkin, Henry Ring, David Riskin, Rose Sherman, Benjamin Silverman, Molly Bauer Silverman, Sylvia Stein, Eve Tobin, Rosalina Van Gelder, Alexander Wallace, were the Shloshim for Lou Shotland and John Alsway. The memories of all who are with us, we ask all who are mourning, observing Yortzeit, as well as anyone else who wishes to join me in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 267. Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yalmad Yivrach Yeruteh, V'yamlich Malchuteh, V'chayechon, U'vyomechon, V'chayechon Beit Yisrael, Bagalah, Mizman Kariv, V'yimru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah V'vorach, Le'olam R'omei Omaya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei Kudsha, V'rechu, La'elam Yimol Berchata V'shirata, Tushudachata V'nechemata, Damiran V'yalman V'yibru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'el Kol Yisrael V'yibru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Roman, Uya Oseh Shalom, Aleinu V'el Kol Yisrael V'yibru, Amen. Zichronam Livracha, may the memory of the people you're thinking of today be a blessing to you always. Let us say, Amen. All right, first, thank you. Thank you to Avi Paulson for a smooth stream from everything I understand. We have a couple of teens volunteering their time while when Josh Mailman, give Josh a little bit of a break. Thank you so much. Thank you to our Torah readers, Jacqueline Paulchik and John Jacob, and Jacqueline for leading Shachari as well. Beautifully done. Our Haftorah reader, Susan Simon. Thank you to all of you for being here and showing up. There will be lots of opportunities for you to do so again over the next 2 weeks. There's, of course, Minyan every Thursday. Next Friday night, outdoors in the courtyard. Sign up required. Next Saturday, not open to the full congregation. Sophie Posmentier becomes Bat Mitzvah, and so that will be restricted because of our numbers to her invited guests and family. Next Sunday night, confirmation will be on live stream. That's only for the confirmation class for Erev Shavuot. But Monday and Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. in the sanctuary, Shavuot Day 1 service, Shavuot Day 2 services, and even in the best of times, those are difficult minyan to get. So if you can be here, please come. If you're in this room right now, think about it. If you're listening or watching, think about coming in person. We could really use you on those 2 days. Tikkun Leil Shavuot, our study is not in person this year. We are joining with United Synagogue. There are study sessions all night long, and more information will be forthcoming on that. All right, I think that's enough for now because there's a lot of other things happening, but they're extended just a little bit further out. We will conclude with a Don Olam, page 269. Adon Olam asher alach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'ed na'asa v'chefzo kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kiklot hakol v'va'ado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh Vehu yeh b'tifara, vehu yeh b'tifara, vehu echad v'hein sheni, v'ham shilo v'achbira, v'li reshit, v'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, vehu eli v'chai goli, צור חבלי ועת צרה והוד ניסי ובנוזלי ונתקוסי ביום אקרא ונתקוסי ביום אקרא ידו אף רוחי ועת אישן ויעירה ואם רוחי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא אירא Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat shalom. Let's be safe and careful out there.